All right, welcome to the Top Agent Podcast. I'm very excited to introduce my next guest. I'm speaking with Nick Neascu, a top producing real estate agent in Vancouver, Canada. Nick markets and sells some of the most luxurious properties in Vancouver. He's been involved in over 400 million in real estate transactions. Nick, welcome to the Top Agent Podcast.
Hey Costa, thanks for having me. So yeah, 820 million
Oh,
now.
okay. So
820
that
million. It's
wherever
all
the
good. It's all good.
website I got that from has to be updated then.
I know. I know. I need that. I'm doing redoing my whole my own personal website and the copy on it, and I know where you got that from. So it's like, yeah, it's like it's more of I keep track of every deal in my head.
Okay, that's amazing. So okay, we're pushing
Yeah,
the billion mark then.
we're getting there. Yeah, it's my next year's goal is to hit it. Maybe even this year, but next year for sure will be a
Yeah, no,
billion.
the market's been crazy. How's the market been in Vancouver? Like, what are you seeing right now during these crazy times?
It's It is crazy. Incredibly busy. It's price specific, but like I'm gonna say, like it depends who your audience is. But a lower price house in Vancouver, where I work, is about 1.5 million. So anything under 2 million is just bonkers. When you hit that 2 million range, it starts to slow down a little bit. But when you get into the ultra luxury, 6-7 million dollars is where you're not seeing the competitive offers, but we see some strength. It's a lot better than it was last year, but it's also, as an agent in a really hot market, it's so competitive that people may think that you're just doing tons of deals, but when there's one house and it's 15 to 30 offers, only one agent's getting that deal on the buy and one agent's getting that deal on the sell. So it's much more work to put a deal together right now, unless you're the listing agent in the right
Yeah,
property.
I could imagine. I spoke to a realtor in Atlanta, in other parts in the U.S. and Canada, and everyone's sort of sharing the same feedback of how they've never seen a market this hot
Hmm.
before. Like I spoke to a top producing agent in Atlanta yesterday. She's been in the business almost 40 years. She said she's never
Wow.
seen the market this hot before, like 100 plus offers on homes and stuff. So I don't know if it's that crazy in Vancouver,
That's
but
no, the most I've seen is 35, but at that point, it's like you only need one,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Only one good one.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, there's a lot of factors though. There's a lot of factors. We've never seen this market because we had never experienced the factors of last year and of a pandemic in 100 years. So this is new to everybody.
absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
So, do you mind just kicking things off, just telling us a bit about yourself and how you landed into real estate?
Yeah. So I've been a licensed agent for getting to getting close to 11 years now. Prior to that, I was a development manager. So that's a real estate development manager. So I was a project manager, but a little bit more responsibility. So right out of university at 26 years old, I was a junior, and given projects that were more difficult and sort of outside of the lower mainland in Vancouver, so in rural areas, and my job was to acquire land. Um, it was to rezone, subdivide, build, and exit. And I have a degree in marketing. I don't have a degree in urban land economics or anything like that, or engineering. So I basically taught myself how to do this. So right from I guess I was ingrained in learning real estate, and after about 4 or 5 years of experience, I decided to exit that aspect of real estate because just for the money. I mean, I wasn't making what I wanted, so I decided to take a huge pay cut and become a realtor. And the reason why I'm saying that is because your first year or two, you need to build your business. And I went into the business being probably overconfident of expectations, like I'm going to go kill it, and that's what you need. You need that mentality, that confidence. But it didn't work out that way. So ended up starting off in a condo brokerage downtown Vancouver. You know, 6 months into the business, no deals. I'm like, well, I know my stuff. What the heck? There's a big difference in knowing your stuff and being able to sell. And I'm naturally an introvert. I've always been an introvert, so I had to really change my personality and my way of communication to convince people to work with me. And it took me a solid 2 years to get off the ground. And so I've sold 820 million. My first year, I made, I think it was 18 grand. I did two deals, and then after that, I sold my first $1 million property in my second year, and I was thrilled, right? So and then I think I made something like 40 grand my second year. So, but I was building, without knowing it, building the foundation and building my network. So my third year was higher, my fourth year was higher, and so on and so forth. So I was building that proper business model, and I did it without anybody in my sphere. So I moved away from Vancouver for 10 years for university, and then for my job, and then came back with zero
Wow.
sphere. So everybody who I did a deal with is people I did not know at
Okay,
all.
so okay, there's so much I would love to unpack there. So how
Sure.
many years now are you in real estate, like licensed?
License
Okay,
almost
so
11
okay,
April.
11
Yeah.
years. One thing that's interesting, speaking to a lot of very successful realtors, they oftentimes describe themselves as introverts. Um, Talk about like that hurdle. Like, what did you have to change, like mentality wise, like mindset to sort of because when you think real estate agent, you don't think introvert.
Mhm. You don't. And so there's two different types of salespeople. There's going to be that person that just like my business partner, for example. I mean, he's also very smart. Don't get me wrong. DJ Danner is very smart, but he's got the he's what would be the wording for that? He is very likable right out of the gate. Very yeah, it's like his energy is so good and high, and he's an extrovert, so he's just like reaches, he's no worry, he just talks, and that's where he gains his energy is from connecting with people. Whereas an introvert's the opposite. They have to they have to back off and be in their own space to recharge. So that's the biggest difference between introvert and extrovert. But so I, instead of being that person who reaches out and connects with somebody just by saying hi, I connect with people with knowledge and and I guess it would be statistics and building my confidence based on what I know. So and then people who seem to be might take a bit longer to build that relationship right out of the gate, but it creates a relationship based on it's a business relationship based on trust, knowledge, and advice. So that's kind of what how I build my, and I still do it that way. I'm obviously a little bit more now in the middle between introvert and extrovert, but I still have to recharge at home by myself or in my own space rather than at a party. Like if I go to a party, I get tired by 11 because it's just overstimulating for me. So, but it's no, there's there's no right or wrong. It's just different. You take your strengths and then you just focus on your strengths and don't worry about your weaknesses. Just sharpen your
Yeah, I
strengths.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Just for context as well, how many you start off, first year, two deals, second year, first $1 million property. Now, 11 years in, just for context, like how many transactions or sales volume do you do in a given year?
It varies, definitely. So we are high transaction price, low volume. So last year we sold 47 houses or properties, and our transaction volume was around 147 million.
Wow. Okay.
So we're running at around 3.2 million per
Yeah. This
transaction
this was
thereabouts,
last
right?
year,
Like
2020.
this was last year.
Okay.
The year before, we were at 120 million in transactions, and our average price was higher. I think we only did like 35 deals,
Okay.
but our average price was higher. So so we are in a low
Yeah.
volume, high price. Our goal is as we increase our volume, we make our returns are better because our average and we maintain our average price.
Got it.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different than like the person who sells 120 homes
Yeah.
a year or
Makes sense.
more.
What's the goal
Yeah,
this year?
200 million in
200.
sales.
Nice.
200 million in sales is the goal. We are at 27 million so far this year
Yeah. Okay.
sold and 11 transactions. So we're doing our average price per transaction is lower, but our average volume is higher compared
Yeah.
to last year. So end of the day, it's how much you sell, and as well as all those happy clients. That's the most
That's what it's
important
all
thing. Or
about.
else we'll
Yeah.
never
Just providing the value,
we're
right?
not here without totally. Yeah.
One thing you said, which I found very interesting, you started off with no sphere, right? This is like the first thing people tell
Mhm.
you when you get into real estate. It's like start with your network, your existing sphere. So in your
Mhm.
case, you started at zero. You moved to Vancouver from somewhere else, or
No, so I'm from Vancouver, but I moved away. I was in the U.S. for
okay,
4 years for university, then in Vancouver Island, which is a way different market, for 6 years, and then moved back to Vancouver. But Vancouver's very expensive, and I'd say most of my friends from high school moved away for the most part. And so when I came back, I did have my parents here, but they didn't know anybody that was ready to transact. So I basically had no sphere. I mean, I had sphere, but no business sphere. So I had to find my first clients, and the way I did that was through open houses. And I developed this long list of people that I met, and I think I had like a 1%, ended up being like a 1% conversion. It was just so low based on 100 people that you meet. That's a You get a better conversion off mailers. So so but it's where you start. You learn, and it's also good to make your mistakes when nobody knows you. So you make your mistakes, you make your fumbles, and you learn. And so I didn't. I wasn't. I was very successful in my first year in knowledge. I was incredibly unsuccessful in income, but you have to look at the strengths, right? Of the positive of what happened. I mean, I'll tell you, my first year, I worked I worked more, like, incredible amount of hours because I was desperate. Like, I needed the business. I needed the like I was almost broke. I ended up, losing my relationship. Ended up moving home, sleeping on my mom's couch at 30. Because I'm 40. I'm turning 41 in April. At 30, down and out completely in my first year, saying, "What am I doing here? I left $100,000 a year job to make nothing and sleep on my mom's couch at 30. Like, this is a terrible mistake." I truly believe, if you don't know what rock bottom is, you don't know what you will never have that ultimate survival DNA in you, and that motivation to to succeed. I really do. You have to know where that rock bottom is. Even now, it's not. I don't operate in a place of fear. However, I work hard as I do now as I did in day one, because I understand that without that hard work, you cannot
yeah,
keep it up.
that's so true. I totally agree with that. I was actually having a similar conversation the other day, and I was saying like one of the things like I'm personally most grateful for is like just my upbringing. I hardworking immigrant parents. Like we didn't have much growing, but I experienced like the need to hustle and make something happen for yourself. And I wanted like a follow up to that is how do you once you get to a place where you're comfortable, your lifestyle has improved, and you're making good money. How do you not get complacent? How do you get that feeling of like sleeping on your mother's couch and that need to get out there? How do you maintain that?
Yeah so yeah so it's a you jump in and out of mindsets. You jump out of there's two mindsets. So it's a fear-based mindset and the abundance-based mindset. They both create motivation, right? And I think when you go through what I went through in terms of financial stress at 30 years old, you can jump back in and out of fear-based and abundance-based all the time. It's what it is. So I think I do sometimes when I have like, I'd say, even though 27 million is a lot. Is a lot. I made a lot of money in January, but in February my performance was much lower. So I jumped back into that, fear based briefly, kind of calibrate myself, saying, "Shit, you got to like figure this out, like what's going on." And then step out of it, saying, "Well, you're fine. You're not there before where you were before. You're in a good position. Let's go create some deals, and create more abundance." So, and abundance is not just money; it's happiness and it's fulfillment, right? So So I jump in and out, but I think that's a really good way to calibrate because you can't. It's like a teeter-totter, right? You have to go back and forth until you calibrate again, and and that's kind of what happens to me all the time. I'd say on a monthly basis, I'm in and out, but that creates a motivation, and I'm stubborn, so I'm not going to fail, and I'm going to say only there's only success, and the just the counterweight to that mindset is that sometimes you don't enjoy your successes. You don't celebrate your successes. You just go to the next deal. That's the hardest thing for people who are trying to be high achievers is that you hit your goal and you go to the next thing without enjoying it. And I haven't figured that out yet. I always say it's like, oh, you have to enjoy your successes, but I don't even do it myself.
That's true. Yeah.
Honestly, I don't. It's almost like I'm numb
Yeah.
to it, and it's not. Maybe it's not a good thing, but
Yeah, I can
we're
totally
always
see
looking
that.
to improve, right?
A lot of like
Yeah.
successful people I see and or speak to and meet, it's it's like when you're back on your mother's couch, using that example, if someone told you
Hmm.
on that at that moment, in 12 months you're going to be doing like 10 million in transactions, you're making this much money, you're going to be you're probably thinking like, wow, like
Hmm.
that's amazing, I'm set. But once you get there, it's like, like this is it. It's not enough. Like you want to keep pushing, and I think that's in your DNA as like a true, entrepreneur and someone that wants to grow and advance. I don't think there's ever that cap.
No, it's your sometimes your peaks can once you hit them can be actually a a sense of you get a little sense of success, but then a sense of frustration. Thought I just hit a peak. Okay, now I got to hit the next peak. So you're looking up the mountain and you're just like, okay, now what do I have to do to get to that next peak rather than look behind you and say, wow, what a beautiful view.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. So I'm also curious to ask, you racked up now close to $1 billion in sales, which is crazy,
Getting there,
in your
yeah.
career. To accomplish that, it's obviously not by luck. So what are like two or three things that you do each and every day, consistently to help you achieve your goals or just help you get closer to your goals? Like any rituals or things like that?
I'm not actually a huge ritual person in terms of meditation or whatnot, but one thing I do is I show up to work. Like, aside from this, like normally be at the office, but I don't want the background noise in our interview, but I would be at the office every day. No matter what, I will be in the office unless I have a money making activity, which is a listing appointment, a showing, negotiating a contract in person, whatever. But I show up to the office. I don't believe working at home. You can. There's too much distraction, at least for me. Show up. Two, purpose. So what is your purpose today? Like what are your goals today? And your goals are you have all your clients that you're talking to, all your potential clients you're talking to, reach out to them, call them, get those conversations going, be top of mind. And it doesn't matter how successful you are if you're not following up with your leads or your clients, you're eventually going to become in the background, and somebody else is going to take your place. So be top of mind, and then third is I look at the market and see what's sold and what's listed. It's hard now to get into every property on an agent tour because of COVID. So I just to try to learn what inform myself of what has happened in the market because when I'm talking to a client and they know more about the market than I do, you've already shot yourself in the
Yeah.
foot.
Okay, that's awesome. So at the end of the day, you show up every day, have your
Show up.
purpose,
Number one, show up. Put that, if you need a mantra,
show
just
up.
put it in your bathroom
I
and
like it.
write it out
Yeah,
on your mirror.
love it,
Show
love
up.
it. I'd love to talk about your processes and your marketing and sales. As you alluded to just now, real estate, it's a very relationship driven business. Starting with
Hmm.
nurturing your contacts, creating opportunities, doing the sale, and like that cycle just repeats itself. So, what are some of the specific ways that you nurture and engage with your clients and contacts and prospective clients or leads?
Hmm. It's pretty direct. I don't beat around the bush. I basically say in here that, like, I am here to help you with real estate. And if somebody says I'm working with another agent, one, I say, do you have a relationship with them? Or are you open to, more collaboration or opportunity? And if they say they're not, then I back off because I really respect agency relationship. But if they're just saying, well, I have an agent, but I'm interviewing other agents, and I just ask them. I don't ever say like I'm the number one realtor. I'm better than everybody else. No, I'm not going to let my ego take charge of my business. I'm going to say, give me an opportunity to put my hat into the ring, and let me show you the value I can bring to you. And that approach seems to be very, very, very well received compared to the I'm the best, because everybody says they're the best. I'm number one. It's just noise. Second, um, I try to create a more intimate, personal relationship with my clients in terms of, just showing trust, revealing things of, maybe even revealing fears that I have. Because if you reveal a fear, it creates trust because you're sharing it, and it could be anything. But don't keep it too personal, but keep it sort of a little bit higher level, and just show that I'm sharing something with you because I trust you, and in turn they're going to trust you, and you're creating relationships. It's all about creating relationships and creating trust. If you go in just talking business, it's just gonna be this sort of barrier. In real estate, it could take a year to do a transaction or even longer. So you're gonna be talking to this person and many times they'll become friends. And that's the best outcome. If you have a bunch of friends that are your clients, that's a great outcome. So just creating those relationships, nurturing those relationships, keeping in touch, keeping top of mind, calling them, texting them, emailing them, being templating things, or it works, but being like super personal messages about, you know, hey Joe, how's it going? Like, it was great catching, it was great having a coffee with you, and you said this, and it really resonated with me. Do you want to meet up and chat about that? And it doesn't have to be about real estate, or it can be
Yeah.
about real estate, but that's how you create connection.
Yeah, love that. So, just to dive into that a bit more, like, do you have any like systems or processes in place to help with this, like reminders, or is using
Yeah.
CRM or things like that to help with those touch points?
Yeah. Yeah, CRM is pretty good. It's funny. Like, we don't. My CRM is on my Excel spreadsheet. Even though we do have a CRM that we get all of our contacts and plug them into our database, and we send like the weekly
Yeah.
newsletters and whatnot. But my true CRM is on my
Really?
Excel
Okay.
spreadsheet of. It's just simple because remember, we're not. If I was doing 200 deals a year and I had 300, 400 people I'm talking to, way different. But when I'm doing 2, 3 deals a month, I can manage talking to 15 people by setting reminders in my calendar and just making sure on my daily checklist that I'm hitting all these
Yeah.
people. So these are my checklist is this is the name, this is the information, this is what they do, and having my Cole's notes. This is what we talked about before, and then and just checking off that as I talk to them, and it's worked really well. But it's way different for volume based businesses. Volume based businesses, you can't do that. There's not enough time in the
Right.
day to
So
do
so
it.
like the note taking and like just reminding yourself of like what you spoke about this person, things like that. Is that all managed in like in that Excel sheet or?
Yeah, well, maybe it's a bit old school, but I have my post-it note. I take the notes, throw them
Yeah.
on my board, and then and after I see all the notes that I have for the day, I put it back. I transfer them onto my Excel spreadsheet, and but mostly I can remember it. I mean, we're creating relationships here. We're not. It's not. These are real long
Yeah.
lifetime, hopefully lifetime relationships. So it's just it's like go and talk to your best friend. You know what you talked about
Yeah.
before, and you just bring it back up again. But when it comes to search criteria, real estate, and the details about what they're looking for, that's all written down in detail.
Got it.
Yeah, in a separate
Okay,
note.
that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So in terms of the personal outreach, I know you're not really in like a high volume type of the business.
Hmm.
Like, do you have a system in terms of like how often you're reaching out to people who may not be like as close as like a best friend, but someone who you have more like a business relationship?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Like, if there's somebody who's not going to transact in a year, I'll send them a text every
Okay.
2 weeks, saying hi. Hey, you want to grab
Yeah.
coffee? Because you never know who they know that might want to
Yeah.
buy real estate. And I always
Yeah.
ask that question. It's like, it's just we're having a coffee. It's just curious. Anybody that you might know that's looking to buy, and then sometimes it's like, well, yeah, I have somebody's looking to buy, but they're only looking to buy an $800,000 condo. I didn't think it would be in your wheelhouse. I go, no, I would love to help them.
Yeah, and
So
circumstances
that's it
change
was,
too, right? I mean,
they,
all
they
the
do. I
time.
was like, oh, I just won the lottery, and
Yeah,
that has
yeah,
happened. It has happened. So you never know. So just keeping in touch, and circumstances do change. The stock market. People have made a lot of money in the stock
yeah,
market. That has
yeah,
changed. Always ask for business in a really, and you don't have to be all cheesy about
yeah.
it. Like it's car sales, it's like ask for business. Like, hey, this is my business. Like, and you trust me. So, is there anybody that you may know that might be looking to buy or sell?
Yeah.
It's an easy question. I don't know. People have a hard time asking for business. It's just an
It's
easy
true.
question to ask.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
So you focus primarily in like a high end like luxury market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do.
So talking about, I'd imagine you have your set clients, a lot of referrals and repeat business.
Yeah.
What about like new contacts or new clients and adding new people sort of into the pipeline? Especially like
Yeah.
someone like yourself who's in a very niche like luxury real estate. I'd imagine it's a very tighter market. So what are some of the things you do to add new contacts, new people in the pipeline?
Well, or pre-COVID, I was doing open houses on Saturdays and Sundays, and I just love it because, you know, you can sit in a $6 million house, and real buyers are walking in looking to buy $6 million houses. So that's the best way to meet people. And then if you engage with them in the open house and just be and treat it like a job interview. Show that house like show that house in with the purpose of, you may not be selling the house to this person, but this person's so impressed about how you present a house, they'd want to use you as a realtor. Or they may want to use, with your knowledge, use you as a buyer's agent. And and that's how I get a lot of, good leads, right? Post COVID. With COVID now, it's a little bit more different. I find that social media, you know, Instagram has been very good for developing business relationships, and getting new clients. And you might think that, well, the guy who has $8 million to spend on a house, or the girl has $8 million to spend on a house, may not be on Instagram and social media. True, but their assistants are, and their kids are, and their influences.
True. So I wanted to ask about that sort of like pre-COVID, post-COVID. So Instagram, is that primarily like you're active on there regularly?
Yeah, I wish I want to be more active on there, but I guess it's one of those things I always want to be better. But yeah, I'm active on there. I post weekly for sure. I try to put as many stories up as possible. I'm trying to be more on camera, and but I have to worry about confidentiality and all that with clients. So I just try to poke on camera when I can. Um, but yeah, I'm creating, Instagram's kind of like a snapshot of your life, and it's also a reflection of who you are. So, you know, I try to show on Instagram what I do on an authentic basis. I don't trying to fake it. I'm just trying to show who
Yeah.
I am.
And you manage your accounts yourself. You don't have like an admin or yeah.
Yeah, I manage. Yeah, we have an in-house designer that creates some of
Yeah, graphics and
the
yeah.
graphics, but I
Okay.
post myself. I don't let anybody post
Nice.
for me.
And so what type of things are you putting like on your stories, for example? For those wondering, like, I know I got to get on Instagram, but like, what do I post and how do I do it? And
What I'm what I'm doing is, and what I want to do. There's two different things. So what I'm doing right now is I'm posting about, properties that I'm seeing, um, posting about active listings that I just listed, solds that we just sold, team sales as well, that we because we run a team. Um, but what I want to do is I want to get more on face-to-face camera and really engaging with my audience, and create and sort of, you know going down that road of, you can't meet me in person because of COVID, but this is who I am in real life. And I think that that's the next level for me in Instagram, is as having more personal videos of just talking to
yeah,
camera.
nice. And so you're saying like it's actually giving results. Like you've built like your relationships like through Instagram.
I built a lot of relationships with Instagram, and I'd say in 2016, was it 2016, I I got my first lead off Instagram. And I was with no, I was just posting for fun. It's like, oh, here's a fancy car, here's a house, right? It's like, I don't know. I didn't even know what Instagram really was. And then I got this lead, and 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 it was this uh, client who was from China, and it was a son, and he messaged me and he goes, his name is Adrian, and I will never forget it. Adrian's like, "Hi, my parents are coming from China. We're looking to buy a house, and we have a condo downtown that we may want to sell." I said, "Okay, well let's meet up and let's have a look at the condo." I had no idea what they wanted to buy for a house, and then I actually convinced them to probably keep it as a rental because it had such good income. And he's like, well, okay, well, let's go meet at Starbucks and we'll talk, and we can meet my parents and we can look at our criteria. So it ended up being, long story short, ended up transacting, bought him a $6 million house 60 days later. And it was a deal that I knew of off market. That was a house that was being built. And I was like, I know the perfect house for you. Let's go. This is about the knowledge, right? And then as soon as we saw it, bang, offer on the table, we negotiated it and done. So I'd say like my transaction, I made $70,000 off of an Instagram lead,
Jeez,
and it was like mind blowing. Like really?
that's crazy.
Wow,
Yeah.
this is crazy, right? So so that those so my business partner DJ, you should follow him at DJ Denner. He 30% of his leads in the last year have come from Instagram, and for me it's less. It's probably about 15%, but there's a trend going on, and if you can build your Instagram up really well, you can you can develop another funnel,
Yeah.
and it's always fun to get a message saying, hey, I follow you on Instagram. I'm looking to buy property, a seller property. Can we meet?
Yeah. Have you noticed
Yeah,
post COVID, like you're more mindful to be even more active on Instagram because you sort of lost that
I
open
would say
house
so.
avenue?
I would say so. As a realtor, you have a need to meet people. You have an urge, you have a craving to meet people. Let's say, right? That's how you build your business, and you meet less people in person with COVID. So you have to find different ways to do it. Podcast is a good way to do it. Instagram, LinkedIn. Be creative. Try to book those meetings. Try to book those Zoom meetings. Very important. Book those Zoom meetings, and then you can book those in-person meetings if they'll feel comfortable with all the
Yeah.
PPE
Yeah.
protocols.
What about
Yeah.
Clubhouse? I'm hearing a lot about Clubhouse in the real estate world. Are you on there?
Yeah, I'm on Clubhouse. You can find me there. I think it's great. I think it's a new emerging um, technology or not even technology, more platform that is filling a niche for networking. I don't know how well it's going to be for meeting new clients like buyers or sellers, but definitely for the referral network, I see a huge strength there. And I just, and for the knowledge, like understanding how other people around the world do business in their own uh, facets. In real estate, it's been so cool to connect with realtors that you know of but never spoken to
Yeah, that's
before.
interesting. Okay, that makes sense. So you see it more for like that referral network, which I can see that.
Referral networking
Yeah.
knowledge, learn, improving. You can bounce ideas off of people who are in different networks, and if they steal your idea, never
Yeah.
going to affect you,
Yeah.
right? So, and then they're going to share their ideas of what work, and you can really, I think you can improve your business immensely by listening to some of these top agents
Yeah.
around the world, and their stories and
For
advice.
sure. What about you mentioned it very briefly, but podcasts? I know you have your own podcast, putting out some
Yeah.
content. What's the strategy story behind your podcast?
So my podcast is called Real Talks, the Realtor Life. It was uh, a passion project, I guess you could say, based on frustration that I couldn't find a good podcast that I could relate to in Canada.
Okay.
So you hear there's a lot of U.S. podcasts, and they use different languages like escrow,
Yeah.
and and they use different platforms and they developing leads like Zillow, right? And these are things that we actually kind of have Zillow now, but we never use it. Um, that we in Canada don't, as agents, don't really resonate with. So I'm like, well, what's something that I'd be interested in listening to? And then I said, well, why don't I create it with my networks of knowing good agents in Vancouver? um, I could create something worth listening to and try to show new agents, especially or agents that are struggling, talk about success stories. A lot of the times when you look at a very successful agent, you just see like, wow, I wish I was like that. Why am I not lucky? What's going on? I'm going to tell you 99% of the time, they all have been rock bottom,
Yeah.
right? They started from the bottom, and they'll never forget it. There's a lot of commonalities after, I don't know, I think I have 14 or 15 episodes of with top agents, and fortunately enough, happened to expand now to US agents. So um, I was down at the agency launch party, or it was a celebration. I think it was a 1 year celebration party. I was invited down there with a few agents in my office to go to LA, and we were at Maurizio's house. Maurizio Miminsky, who's married uh, to Kyle, who's a housewife, and we were at his house, and I was like, oh my god, this is like there's James from $1 Million Listing. So I went right up to James and I said, hey James, my name's Nick. Huge fan of you. We're from Canada. He's like, oh, you're so nice. I go, I have my microphone and my laptop with me. Would you want to be on my podcast? He's like, no problem, man. Come to my office. Tomorrow at noon, and we'll record it. Easy,
Yeah.
right? So I have James on my podcast, and his story is really cool. Then I also have a bunch of top other agents. So and the feedback from those stories, and it just like reaffirmed that what I was doing is really impactful, because I didn't do it without any goal except for just doing it. And I have like 100,000 listens on my podcast now,
Wow.
and and just do it for fun. And I haven't, and to be honest, I haven't done a podcast in over a year, but I'm thinking about getting it back onto it now, because people want some
Yeah.
more episodes.
Nice. You should.
And and it's fun, but I'm really like you as well, I'm sure. Quality control is key, and making sure that everybody that you have on adds value, and that's important. And I think with everybody now comfortable with Zoom, comfortable with talking, and with better mics, and and I guess this new way of doing business, is much easier to reach out to people and actually record a
Yeah.
podcast like
Yeah.
we're doing,
Totally.
right?
Yeah. I love it. You should definitely
Yeah,
get back into it.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. It's my goal. It's one of my goals. That's my vision board, by the way. That's my analytical vision board. It's all written out.
Podcast is one of the things there. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nice. Nice.
everything's on there. What I want, it's right there, and everything that goes onto that magic board comes true.
Amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit. So, you talked about a lot of the nurturing, the marketing, that's one thing, but then at the end of the day, you got to deliver, and that's the actual sale for the client. You got to execute and deliver on the service you're offering. So
Right.
how do you, especially in a market like Vancouver, like how do you differentiate your listings from dozens or even hundreds of other listings in your city? Again, like Vancouver, which is one of the hottest competitive markets, not only in Canada, but maybe even the world. So
Hmm.
talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So that's a great question, actually. Videography, photography is very important in marketing. Um, think about, I mean, think about Tinder. Okay, think about Bumble or one of those dating apps. It's people are in the mindset of, if you don't have their attention right away, they swipe. They're looking on MLS, they swipe. So that first photo is key. So really good photography, like we call it the hero shot. I'm there with the photographer, at focusing and planning that hero shot, but an hour before we take it, before the lighting's correct. So this is, setting up that hero shot, and then all the interior shots that we take, I'm looking at a mindset of a buyer. It's like, what's attractive and what's not. So we don't just send the photographer in there to take photos and we look at 80 photos and pick 20. We want 30 really good photos so we can pick the top 20. One, two, video. Again, we're there with a videographer and we're directing the whole thing. It's a story that we're telling. There's a rhyme and reason of the videos that we're doing. We're either, if it's a beautiful house, we're focusing on details. If it's a knockdown house and a building lot, we're getting the drone up in the air and we're focusing on neighborhood and telling a story of why you'd want to invest in this property. So again, I mentioned the word with purpose. Um, that's we do photography with purpose. We do videography with purpose. We do copyright with purpose. Everything has a purpose, and that's to create the best offering possible to the market. And then, and of course, when we post on our social media, it's not just posting. It's like, hey, look at me, I'm so great, I have a new listing. This is the information, and we want to cooperate with other agents. Bring your buyers, and we'll cooperate. And this is how the business works. It's like, it's an agent will DM, post a listing, always get a DM. It's like, hey, how much is this property? If they haven't read the description, then or can you tell me more about the property? Oh, I have a client. Can we show up? We get a lot of showing requests through Instagram and DMs from other agents who have buyers who want to work with us. So it's all about getting exposure and then controlling that message. And I'd say lastly, when you're talking about video, look at YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. That's how you have to focus on YouTube. Because it's Google's number one, YouTube's number two. It's a video search engine. So optimize that so it ends up in recommendations. And and write, and when you write your description in YouTube, make sure you're using original content, and also highlighting area, like highlighting like this is West Vancouver, uh, in your description, and then your location, which is a sub neighborhood, which is, for example, Bay Ridge, and and then highlight families, schools, all that. So when the algorithm crawls and picks up all that data, and somebody's looking for Bay Ridge, West Bay school catchment, new house, your video is going to pop up in their search engine as a recommendation. So just everything has a purpose and a reason, and same as LinkedIn, right? Because it's a different audience. You're going to get high net worth business people. So make sure that you're tailoring that towards CEOs. If it's a big property, then CEOs, business owners, and whatnot, and it'll be organic.
I love it. So you're very, by the sounds of it, very hands on. Like with each property, the videos, like you said, that hero shot
Yeah.
with the videos. So you're very hands on with that.
Well, think about it. You spend years potentially building that
Yeah,
relationship. Now it's game time.
totally.
Now you're not going to be there when the puck
Yeah,
drops, because this is
100%.
gaming.
Yeah,
Or
I love it.
yeah, right, or the
I love
first
that
nap.
analogy. That's
Um,
great.
yeah, that's what are you worked so hard to get
True.
there. Like, come on, man, or
I love
woman.
it. Yeah, I love it. So another question, you close, call it 50 plus deals a year. I'm sure every deal is different and has its unique sets of challenges, perhaps. Do you have any examples of a deal that maybe stands out, that, maybe unique, non-traditional, like something, like a story behind
Yeah,
something?
well, they're all unique. Totally. So I term the real estate defibrillator. Deal's dead. You're like, clear, and like, so I'm stubborn, so getting that heartbeat back on the deal is important. So I'd say one that happened last year. We were selling this house. It's a brand new house, and we were and it was a $4 million house in a neighborhood that doesn't really see many transactions over around four. Right, we get this incredible offer on the plate, and we have this nuisance neighbor. And my client, we're representing the seller, and my client had planted all this bamboo there. And so during the subject removal due diligence period, um, the neighbor had come along and cut down all the bamboo that was one day in the future, block his view, and he was trying to basically sabotage the deal. So we came in with an inspection, with the inspector, and the buyer came and said, "Well, all the bamboo's been cut. Like, what the heck's going on?" And it's like, "Do we have an issue with the neighbor?" And of course, we're going to say, "Well, this is what happened. We have it on film. We've talked on security. We talked to the police, but the police won't do anything because it's not really their jurisdiction." So part of the deal was, now my client had to spend 10 grand again. We're talking lots of bamboo. It's not just a little bit of it. This is a hedge of bamboo. The replant, and subject removal was on the Monday, and he had replanted on the Sunday. So I went to the property, and I was there all night, just waiting in the house, waiting for the guy to come out and try to cut the bamboo again. And sure enough, he tried, and I stopped him from doing
Wow,
it.
really?
So it's like, and it's just one of those things where it's just, and we have it all on tape. We had a little confrontation. I didn't do anything. Like, I I wasn't yelling at us. He's like, you can't do this, and he went away. But it was, you know, I just knew if he cut down the bamboo again, all that work, time, energy, money spent on that listing, was for nothing. And you know what happened after that? Not only was a buyer like impressed, I told the buyer like you're one of like what I
Yeah.
did. Not only was he impressed, he gave us the opportunity to list his penthouse downtown, and we sold that in 3 weeks for 3.6 million.
Wow. No
Yeah,
bamboo problem
so
there.
no bamboo pro. So it just so do things that stand out and they get
I
noticed.
love that. That's a good story. That's unique for sure. Um,
Sure is, yeah.
so Nick, I do want to be mindful of your time. One last question, actually. If you had to give one piece of advice to either a brand new agent or an agent that's experienced agent looking to like step up their game, like what would that one piece of
Yeah.
advice be?
Um, it depends on what that next level is. Like give me an example and I will
If you're,
tell
let's
you
say, a
what I
new
would say.
agent starting out, you're hovering around like 10 deals a year, but you want to double it. Like, what's the advice you'd give to that person?
Sure. Well, well, if you have to meet 100 people to do 10 deals and go meet 200 people to do 20. That's
Simple.
that's that's that's
Yeah.
simple. Yeah, that's just, that's a law of
Yeah.
averages. But, if you want to increase your price point, if you want to get into the luxury market, then, you have to start, show up to be that guy with a suit and tie. Just who cares? If nobody else is wearing a suit and tie, even more effective,
Yes. I like that.
right? I get so third year in the business, DJ and I were door knocking, and there's a lady in our office that had a buyer for a $2 million farm, and DJ's from this area called Pitt Meadows, and which is outside of Vancouver, which is all farm property. So it was like, well, wow, $2 million, third year in the business, let's go after it. Let's go find them a property. So we are suit, tie, you know, watch, nice shoes, everything, door knocking on like 5 to 40 acre parcels. So those driveways
Yeah.
are long, right? It can take you 5 minutes to walk to the door. So, stepping in horse shit and all that stuff, right? But we were door knocking with suits in an area that probably never even seen a
Yeah.
suit before. We closed 4 deals that year. The most expensive from that, three of them representing the seller, one representing the buyer. The most expensive deal was 4.6 million, and the least expensive was 2.
Wow.
We closed almost 20 million in real estate from that exercise of, I think we knocked for 1 month,
Wow. That's crazy. That's quite the
right? And
return
the
there.
reason we were the guys in suits. That was our brand. We are the guys in suits.
Wow. I love it. Goes
Yeah,
back to the
yeah.
initial. You show up. Just got to show
Show
up.
up. Yeah, show up, especially in your first few years. Don't just go after the deals. Just go after the
Yeah.
deals. They're there to be had. You just have to go take
Love
them.
it.
It's like, you're not going to win the lottery ticket if you're not going to win the lottery if you don't buy a ticket,
Yeah. Absolutely.
right? So just give it a shot. You'll be surprised at what happens. And don't listen to your fear. Your fear is just made up bullshit.
Totally. Love it. Nick, I end off each episode with what I call the top three. Uh, heavy hitters right here. Number one, your favorite book.
Ooh, favorite book. Right now, Think and Grow Rich. I
Yeah.
just love the
Yeah.
mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recently just
Believe in
reread
that.
that one as well. Number
Yeah.
two, your favorite vacation spot.
Koh Tao, Thailand. Siri Dive Resort.
Wow. Okay. Very specific there.
Very specific. I've been there
Got
twice,
it.
and I learned how to scuba dive there, and I love it. It's just you should go. You have to go. And it's
Love
reasonable.
it. Okay.
It's not some fancy
Gotta
resort.
check that
I've
out.
been to fancy resorts. This is my
Perfect.
favorite. Yeah.
And lastly, Nick, if you can go back, what's the one thing you wish you knew when you were just starting out in real estate?
The one thing I wish I knew how much this business costs uh, to run. If I knew that, then I would have planned my finances a little bit better.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And I don't want to plug, but maybe I
Do
will
it.
because I just said that. Okay, I am in the middle of writing a sort of a a realtor playbook for new agents about how to plan and start your business and what to do your first year. It's a basic playbook, but it's not a journal of. I mean, there will be a portion of that, but it's not just a journal. It's a it's how to plan your finances and what to save before you enter this business, because it's fair. It's not a business where you get paid the first. It actually costs you money to go to work. And I figured out for my first year on a 365-day um, cycle, it cost me $131 a day to show up.
Wow. Interesting. You broke it down like that.
Yeah,
When's this coming out? That
I
sounds
broke
really
it.
interesting.
I'm working on it right now, so probably my goal is to have it probably drafted by in the next 2 to 3
Nice.
months.
And will it be like a
But
physical copy or? Yeah.
it'll be a physical
Nice.
copy. Yeah, I want to make a physical copy. One of my
Yeah.
goals is to help others and create knowledge and create a basically help new realtors succeed. And part of that is my podcast, and that's why I want to bring it up again and start it up again. And then others is create something that I can, and then something that's like, not too expensive. Like I do need to cover my costs, and I do want to run it as a business. But I get asked so many times, like, how can I be successful? It's like, well, then I'm just gonna put it all together. My time, I'm $800 an hour, right? Like, you can't afford that, so I'm just gonna put in a book that's like cheap, and then you can have it, and then and then maybe from there on there's something else. I don't know, but I think that's a passion project, and I know it's a passion project for me that I want to do, and hopefully it's successful. If not, then at least I help some
That
people
sounds
out.
awesome. Good for you. I'd love to maybe even have you back on the show, talk about that book specifically, because I'm sure there's a lot of nuggets in there.
I'll have it'll be on your shelf.
But
Be
yeah,
a copy.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do
There
it.
it is. Okay.
Awesome. All right, Nick, thank you so much. I'm really grateful for you taking the time to speak with me. This was a really great conversation. I think so many people listening are going to get a ton of value and insight. So appreciate it, and thank you so much. And I'd love to do it again sometime.
Thanks for the opportunity, Costa. This was great,
Awesome.
and yeah, I'm definitely going to start listening more. I like your questions; they're
I
so good.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
I appreciate
yeah.
it. Thanks, Nick. Have a good one.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.